The biggest mistake people make after breaking free from a narcissist is thinking that no contact is the ultimate payback. It isn't. There is something that hurts them far more, and most survivors end up avoiding it without even realizing it. By the time this video ends, you will understand the one thing that leaves a narcissist feeling completely powerless. Not because you wounded them, but because you took away the one advantage they always counted on. If you've ever wondered why a narcissist suddenly resurfaces months or even years later, or why they seem oddly fixated on you after you've clearly moved forward, the answer isn't simply that they miss you. It comes down to losing access to something they thought was theirs to keep. Stick around until the end, because the final point explains why so many survivors, without meaning to, keep feeding a narcissist even while staying completely no contact. One of the biggest misunderstandings about narcissistic relationships is thinking that going no contact is automatically the harshest consequence a narcissist will ever face. No contact is absolutely essential for protecting your peace of mind and giving yourself room to heal. But it usually isn't the thing that shakes them the most. What tends to hit far harder is something that only shows up after no contact has lasted a long while. That thing is your full emotional independence. A narcissist can often handle silence because silence gives their imagination somewhere to go. They might tell themselves you're still thinking about them, still hoping, still waiting for them to come back. As long as they believe they still hold a place in your emotional world, they get to keep the illusion that their grip on you hasn't slipped. The real blow lands when that illusion finally breaks. When you truly stop shaping your emotions around them, they lose the thing they were feeding off for validation. They're no longer at the center of your choices, your worries, your hopes, or your everyday thoughts. Your happiness stops hinging on whether they approve, and your calm no longer gets shattered by whatever they do. That kind of emotional shift is hard to accept for someone who relied on having psychological pull over another person. It tells them that the control they assumed was permanent has completely worn away. This is exactly why healing means so much more than just blocking a number or dodging a conversation. Real freedom shows up when you stop measuring your worth by their opinions and stop letting the relationship define what comes next for you. The biggest turning point isn't the quiet between you two. It's the moment your inner world finally stops belonging to them. One of the more surprising truths about narcissistic dynamics is that strong emotional reactions can actually keep the connection going. A lot of people assume that showing anger, demanding accountability, or confronting a narcissist again and again will eventually make them see the damage they've done. In reality, those reactions usually just prove that they still have emotional power over you. Whether what you're feeling is love, frustration, sadness, or resentment, the pattern is the same. Your attention is still locked on them. They keep taking up space in your mind, and that continued emotional investment feeds their sense of importance. This is why real indifference matters so much. Indifference doesn't mean acting like nothing happened or bottling up how you feel. It means reaching a point where their actions no longer control your mood, your confidence, or your inner peace. You stop feeling the urge to justify yourself, defend your choices, or prove you're worth something. Their criticism can no longer define you, and their approval stops feeling necessary for your sense of self. Instead of reacting on autopilot, you respond with intention, or sometimes you don't respond at all because there's genuinely nothing left to prove. For someone who used to expect every single interaction to trigger some kind of reaction, this shift can feel deeply disturbing. Manipulation runs on predictability. Once those predictable reactions vanish, a lot of the old tactics stop working. Conversations get shorter, arguments lose steam, and the emotional hooks stop catching hold. Your focus gradually turns toward your own goals, your relationships, and your well-being, instead of staying tangled up in their behavior. That quiet emotional distance is a sign of real healing because it shows your life is no longer built around someone else's need for control or attention. Another reason emotional independence unsettles a narcissist even more than plain no contact is that it strips away their ability to control the narrative. In a lot of narcissistic relationships, managing how things look matters just as much as managing people. They often want to control how others perceive them, casting themselves as the victim, the hero, or the misunderstood one, all while downplaying or denying the harm they've caused. As long as they can shape the story, they get to protect the image they've built and dodge any real reckoning with their own behavior. When you're still emotionally tangled in the relationship, you might spend a lot of time defending yourself, explaining your side, or trying to get others to see what actually happened. Ironically, that can keep you tied to the narcissist's version of events because your energy is still wrapped up in responding to them. But as healing moves forward, something shifts. You stop feeling the need to argue over every accusation or set the record straight on every false story. You start caring more about living your life than about winning some debate over the past. That change takes away a major source of their control. The narcissist can keep telling their side of things, but it no longer shapes how you see yourself. Your sense of identity becomes grounded in your own values instead of their opinions or the image they project. They lose the satisfaction of watching you chase approval or react to every twisted version of events. Over time, your steady, quiet consistency says far more than any explanation ever could. The people who genuinely know you start forming their own opinions based on how you actually live, not on whatever story they've been told. The biggest blow isn't that you exposed them publicly. It's that you stopped letting their version of the story shape your reality. One of the hardest things for a narcissist to watch isn't your pain after the relationship ends. It's watching you truly grow without them. During the relationship, they may have pushed you to believe you needed them in order to succeed, feel loved, or trust yourself. Through subtle jabs, constant comparisons, or unpredictable affection, they often build a world where your self-worth depends entirely on their approval. Over time, you might start doubting your own abilities and believing happiness is only possible if they're still around. Once healing begins, that belief starts to crumble. You start making decisions without waiting for their approval. You reconnect with friends, get back into hobbies, throw yourself into your career, or simply enjoy peaceful moments that once felt out of reach. Your confidence comes back because it's no longer resting on someone else's opinion. You start trusting your own judgment again. And that quiet, steady confidence changes everything about the dynamic. For a narcissist, this can be genuinely unsettling because your progress goes against the story they wanted you to believe. If they convinced themselves you'd always stay emotionally dependent on them, watching you flourish creates a reality they can't easily make sense of. It challenges the picture they had of themselves as someone essential, someone uniquely important in your life. The more grounded and fulfilled you become, the harder that picture is to believe. Your healing also takes away the emotional leverage they used to hold over you. The fears, insecurities, and doubts they once knew how to trigger simply stop working the way they used to. Instead of glancing back with longing, you start looking forward with purpose, proving through your actions that your future was never limited by their presence or shaped by their absence. If this is helping you see narcissistic behavior in a new light, take a second to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who is struggling to break free emotionally. Understanding these patterns can save people years of confusion. Now let's dig into what actually creates the deepest sense of loss for a narcissist. One of the most misunderstood parts of narcissistic behavior is the role of emotional supply. A lot of people assume it only means admiration, compliments, or constant praise. But emotional supply reaches far beyond that. Any strong emotional reaction can boost a narcissist's sense of importance. Love, anger, fear, guilt, jealousy, desperation, even repeated attempts to reason with them can all serve as proof that they still hold real influence over someone's emotional world. The exact emotion usually matters far less than the simple fact that they're still able to stir it up. That's why some narcissists seem just as pleased after starting a fight as they are after being praised. The reaction itself gives them the proof they're chasing, confirming that they still matter enough to cause a stir. When you move from emotional reaction into true neutrality, that supply dries up completely. They notice their words no longer pull defensive explanations out of you. Their absence stops causing distress, and their presence stops commanding attention. This is the exact turning point where the dynamic shifts for good. You haven't just gone quiet. You've taken back their authority over your mind and heart, leaving them with none of the psychological leverage they leaned on for so long. If they can trigger a predictable reaction, they get instant confirmation that they still matter to you. A lengthy emotional message, an angry confrontation, or repeated attempts to make them understand the pain they caused can accidentally show that you're still thinking about them. From their point of view, emotional engagement often means continued access and influence. The dynamic shifts dramatically once that emotional investment disappears. Instead of reacting to every message, insult, or attempt to pull your attention back, you start responding with calm boundaries, or you don't respond at all. Your focus turns toward your own healing, your relationships, and your future instead of staying fixed on their behavior. This doesn't happen overnight, but as your emotional energy flows back into your own life, the validation they once depended on simply isn't there anymore. Cutting off that emotional supply isn't about punishing them or playing games. It's the natural outcome of real recovery, where your attention is no longer swallowed up by someone else's need for validation, conflict, or control. Your peace becomes worth far more than any reaction they're hoping to provoke. One of the biggest sources of power in a narcissistic relationship is predictability. Over time, a narcissist tends to study your emotional patterns, often without you even noticing. They figure out what makes you feel guilty, what sets off your anxiety, what words push you into defending yourself, and what actions are most likely to pull you back into the relationship. That knowledge lets them reuse the same tactics again and again because they already know what response to expect. When your reactions become predictable, manipulation becomes almost effortless. That's exactly why healing brings such a dramatic shift to the whole dynamic. As you recover, you start noticing the patterns instead of automatically reacting to them. A message that once would have sent you spiraling into panic now becomes something you can look at calmly. A guilt-trip comment no longer forces you to explain yourself. An attempt to spark jealousy or start a fight loses most of its power because you can see the motive behind it. Instead of reacting emotionally, you pause, think it through, and choose what's actually best for you. For someone who counted on predictable emotional reactions, this shift can be incredibly frustrating. Their go-to strategies simply stop working the way they used to. The silent treatment no longer creates desperation. Sudden compliments no longer erase past behavior. Unexpected apologies no longer guarantee another chance. The emotional buttons they once pushed with ease seem to vanish. Your growing unpredictability isn't the result of playing mind games or trying to throw them off. It comes from being emotionally grounded and making choices rooted in your own values instead of reacting to theirs. Once they can no longer guess how you'll respond, they lose one of the most powerful tools they once used to hold on to influence, and the relationship no longer follows the script they were used to. For many narcissists, one of the hardest things to accept is watching someone build a fulfilling life without them. During the relationship, they may have subtly, or not so subtly, push the idea that you'd never be as happy, successful, or loved if they weren't part of your life anymore. They might have picked apart your abilities, questioned your decisions, or made you feel like they were the entire reason for your confidence and stability. Over time, that can create the false belief that your future depends completely on them being there. When you start building a meaningful life on your own, that belief begins to fall apart. You form healthier relationships, chase your own goals, rediscover interests you'd let slide, and slowly experience a sense of peace that once felt completely out of reach. Your happiness stops depending on winning their approval or proving your worth to them. Instead, it grows naturally out of your own choices, values, and everyday life. This quiet transformation sends a powerful message without you ever having to say a word. For a narcissist, this can feel like a direct rejection of the role they believed they played in your life. If they saw themselves as irreplaceable or uniquely essential, watching you flourish directly contradicts that belief. It shows that their influence had limits and that your identity was never truly built around them. That's a hard thing to face for someone whose entire self-image depends on feeling exceptional or indispensable. Your success isn't about making them feel defeated or proving them wrong. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself that got buried during the relationship. As your confidence, stability, and emotional well-being keep growing, your life becomes living proof that healing is possible and that your future is shaped by your own resilience, not by someone else's need for control. A lot of people believe freedom starts the moment they block a narcissist's number, delete old messages, or finally walk away from the relationship for good. Those steps are often necessary and genuinely important, but they're really only the starting line of the full healing process. Physical distance gives you immediate safety, but psychological freedom is what brings lasting peace. It's entirely possible to be completely no contact with someone and still carry them around in your head every single day. If you keep replaying old conversations, picturing what you should have said, wondering if they've changed, or hoping they'll finally recognize your worth, they're still taking up valuable emotional space in your life, even though they're physically gone. Real emotional freedom shows up when your inner world stops revolving around them. You stop measuring your progress by whether they miss you, regret losing you, or try to come back into your life. Their choices no longer decide your mood, your confidence, or how much you value yourself. Instead of waking up wondering what's going on in their head, you start focusing on your own goals, relationships, health, and future. The energy that used to get eaten up by confusion and emotional exhaustion slowly becomes free to build a life that actually reflects your own values. This shift tends to be the biggest one of all because it can't be manipulated or taken away. A narcissist might try to reconnect, provoke a reaction, or remind you of the past, but none of that works anymore once they no longer control your emotional attention. Your peace comes from inside you, not from anything they say or do. That's the exact moment the relationship truly loses its grip, and your life stops being organized around surviving their behavior and starts being built around fully living your own. The biggest victory after a narcissistic relationship isn't making them jealous, proving them wrong, or waiting for the day they finally realize what they lost. It's reaching the point where their opinion no longer decides your peace, their actions no longer control your emotions, and their presence or absence no longer defines your future. No contact might create the distance you need, but true healing starts when your mind, your heart, and your identity are no longer tangled up with them. That's the moment the cycle truly ends. So if you're on this journey, remember that every single step you take toward emotional freedom is a step away from manipulation and a step closer to yourself. If this message hit home for you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need this reminder today. Your healing isn't measured by how much they suffer, but by how completely you take your life back.